Let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, let's chop it up, man. Hey, yo, let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, may I interject? It's about time for communal reconnect. Power of the we in some type of context. Working on the us so we can hit up what's next. It's that grown brother, grown sister type of flex. More like soul check, not just collecting checks. Fact, not feelings is what we got on deck. Take the high road so this here is high tech. Getting to the real, very thing that we hitting on. Pull up or sit down, tell me what you sipping on. Reclaiming kinghood, that is what we getting on. Real headlines is what we spitting on. So, hey now, yo, let's have a conversation. Maybe take a sec to talk on what we facing. Only way to change is to change the situation. How about we break bread now and have a conversation? Hey now, yo, let's have a conversation. Maybe take a sec to talk on what we facing. Only way to change is to change the situation. How about we break bread now and have a conversation? Let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, let's have a conversation. Have a conversation. Have a conversation.
All right, we are back. Hey, Flo, how you doing?
I'm okay, TJ.
How
you doing?
I'm good. You're good? Okay.
You know me, I stay hanging in there.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one for over a week. I think this is gonna be a good one. Okay. I'm gonna keep you up. I'm gonna keep you up on the screen while I do my thing. If you feel like it while I'm going through the monologue and stuff like that, Flo, go ahead and jump in because of the topic that we're going to be dealing with, okay? I think she froze up. All right, y'all. Here we go. We are the Real Bravado Network, and this is Have the Conversation. All right, I want you guys to do me a favor. I want you to go ahead on YouTube, go to Real Bravado Network, hit the subscribe button. This is the biggest way you can show your support to the platform. Is go ahead and subscribe, share it, ask people to subscribe to what we're doing over here, and go ahead and help us. Right now, we are at I think 290 something subscribers. Our goal is to get to 500 by the end of the summer. I mean, it's a big goal, but it's our goal, and we're trying for a big push to get us there. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, also, if you want to participate, in just a little while here, actually, let me do it right now. I am going to drop a link in the comment section, and you can join us here on the panel. All you got to do is click the subscribe button. Click the link in the comment section, and that actually will bring you on to the stream live with the rest of us. Okay. All right. So let's get to it. Here on Have the Conversation, we dare to be bold and not silent. And let me introduce myself before we get too far along. Again, my name is Mr. Tavares J. Moore. I'm not an image consultant or an expert in relationships or culture or history. But what I am is just an average middle-class Black man doing my best to examine the issues that keep Black men and Black women from being connected to one another. All right, now, this is stream number 6 for us. Strong, independent, and stress. over the next month and a half, we're going to be engaging in topics related to her image. And if you guys want to know where I get that from, you got to go back to other streams where I talk about her image. But let's recap what I mean by image in general, okay? Remember, definition-wise, image is a noun. It's it's a person, place, or thing, and sometimes it's used like a verb. But here, the definition that we use for image is the reputation that a person is known for, including the behavior, character, and appearance. Another way of putting it, it's your reputation or how you are perceived. Here's a question that I will continue to ask every stream, and that is, what is it about our image, talking about Black folk image, that or how we are perceived, that leave us to be the most vulnerable and exposed group in America? Do our image even matter to us? Do Black men and Black women have a fair and clear and favorable view of our own image with each other? Okay. All right. So in our next segment, and I'm kind of shortening this, in our next segment called the Real Bravado Headlines is where we go to address our issues or the topic of the day. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get there right now.
After my divorce, I raised my children as a single parent. And what I realized is taking on all of the baggage that somebody else isn't doing was my choice. I never hear a man that is raising children alone say, I'm mom and dad. He never becomes overly feminine because he's raising children. But we as women become overly masculine because we are raising children, because I'm mom and dad and I got to do all these things, right? It wasn't until I started to learn, wait a minute, April, I'm watching my sons. I'm like, I didn't have to be mom and dad. But what I ended up started doing, I took them to the barbershop and they start sweeping up the hair. Now they got Mr. Chris and Mr. Eric over here. And I took them to be a part of different organizations. But what I also did, I had to look at myself and forgive myself for taking on extra stuff that I didn't have to, all because I was trying to overcompensate for what daddy wasn't doing. And now I put extra stuff on me. And then I say, ain't nobody helping me. Well, nobody told you to do that. There is help available. But society makes us feel like if we are not superwoman, we're not a mother. I wrote a post that went viral in 2015 and said, please do not address me as a strong, independent Black woman. It's not a compliment. Because when you think of something strong, you do not think of coming to the aid of it. And at the Boss Up Conference, I spoke and I said, in the audience, you were in the audience, and I said, I asked the fellas, if you had some luggage and you needed an animal to carry it, fellas, what animal would you think of? An elephant, right? Something strong. Why don't you think about a cat or a mouse? Because it can't handle it. So when we are looked at and walk around as strong, what we're putting out is, I do not need assistance. You know, I don't need your help. So anytime a man says, oh, I love it, you're so strong. I said, no, I'm not strong. I'm resilient. I'm not independent. I'm interdependent. Because nobody ever comes to the aid of the strong person. For most of us, ask ourselves, who comes to our aid? Nobody. So when I'm around men, my wrists are broke.
All right, Flo.
I like her. I like her. Well said.
Okay, her name is April Ryan. Now, when I saw that clip, actually the last month or so, I've been having many, many conversations with Black women about what they're carrying, okay? And this is how this topic that we're going to get to tonight came up, because I talk a lot about what our women carry. And when I saw this clip, I thought, you know what, this is a good lead into our discussion for tonight, okay? So, yeah, and her name is April Ryan. She's got a huge platform where she does like a show a couple times a week. But I'm going to be fair, be fair. Most of the stuff that April Ryan talks about, I'm on the opposite side of. But this one, right here I thought was very, 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 very poignant in in what's going on. I think a lot with our Black women. Okay, but
Yeah, I felt that.
let's get going. When I was in New Orleans, I went to New Orleans and I went on a food tour. And the tour guide stated that in order to be or have a successful restaurant in the Big Easy, you need to have a good gumbo. And he said that the way you know you have a good gumbo is that you must have a good roux. Now, your roux is basically the base for your gumbo. And if you have a good gumbo, if you have a good roux, you will have the makings of a good gumbo. So every restaurant that is successful there is successful because of their gumbo, and you can't have a good gumbo without a good roux. Okay? But before you build a gumbo, like I said, you have to build a good roux. A roux has really three basic ingredients. Now, there are more ingredients than three in a roux, but to start a roux, you have to start with the three basic ingredients. Now, I'm not going to go into what those ingredients are. If you want to know what the basis of a good roux is, or the three basic ingredients of it, you can go ahead and look that up for yourself. But for this stream today, I'm gonna have to build a roux. Okay. And our roux, our basic ingredients, our three basic ingredients for the roux of this stream today will be strong, independent, and stressed. Okay. So, and I hope out of those three basic ingredients for the roux of this stream, the panel will help us construct a real good gumbo, okay? So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. And a good roux can take a little bit of time. So I'm going to ask everybody that's listening, including the panel, sit back, stick with me for a while I build this roux, because I think this topic that we're going to deal with is very important, especially when it comes to the overall health, well-being of our Black women, okay? So just stick with me. Some of this you're going to like, some of it you're not. But, we're building a roux here. All right. So prior to 1965, which my mother was born, what was it, 63, 62, somewhere around there. So prior to 1965, Black families were intact or married at a rate of 80%. And back then, there was no phraseology in Black culture to describe a Black woman as strong and independent. There were too many other things going on with Black folks in this country at that time, and we were dealing with like real life and death issues on a survival level. And the realities of Black life in America were drastically different back then. And the things that we were dealing with were was paramount to our well-being and our survival. And out of that was the reason why we were intact at 80%. We were the largest group in this country that were married of any group in this country. And we only represented, even back then, about 12% of the population. But we were married at a rate of 80%. So this strong and independent, this is a new modern concept. Black women back then, prior to 1965, our Black women were simply referred to as grandmother, mother, sister, aunt, wife, or some variation of that, okay? This started changing very rapidly after 1965 as Black men were started to systematically vanish from the family structure. Notice I did not say were being pulled or taken out of the family structure. Later on, at another stream, we're going to talk about this report that was done in 1965 called it was a congressman, Patrick Moynihan, I think his name was. I'm probably mispronouncing it. They did a study of what was happening in Black America starting in 1965, and they started sounding an alarm that was going off with Black folks back in 1965. We're going to talk about the Moynihan report a little down the line, okay? But in general, last 50 years, our Black women have been completely in charge and in control of the family structure and dynamic in general. Just in general. We're not talking about the individuals and stuff like that, but as a whole, as a group, for the last 50 years, the Black community or Black culture, our females have been the lead of the family structure and dynamic. Our Black women hold this syndrome of being strong and independent as a badge of honor and a source of pride. I don't know many Black women personally who do not embrace this concept of being strong and independent. When I engage with our women on this subject of being strong and independent, I always ask them, to what end are you holding on to this? Often our women are embracing this concept and not knowing exactly what they're saying and exactly what they mean by when they say strong and independent. But we as a group of Black folk, we have a habit of taking on terms that we really don't understand what they mean and using them as empowering on its face. But often when you start examining those terms and what the effects of those terms or the attitude that bring out in those terms, it does not lead to good outcomes for us. Strong, independent, and stressed. For generations, in response to systemic racism, our Black women create a persona of the strong Black woman, a woman who's motivated by service and sacrifice. She's the handler of things. She's the manager of things. She overcomes any problem, any obstacle. When you hear Black women talk about being strong, she lists these attributes in terms of honor and pride. So my question is, if our Black women are carrying all of these things, why would they be motivated or have an incentive to come under submission or cooperation when in her mind, she's handling it? As I stated a few moments ago, our Black women feel empowered by this, but not possibly understanding that this mantra in an extreme form could lead to poor outcomes and can be a barrier to getting to what exactly is important to our women and what she actually needs. You know, the syndrome of that calls this syndrome calls on our Black women to be the problem solvers of the Black community, to be the caretakers of the Black community, to be problem solvers and caretakers to anyone that's in her orbit. And she never, always feels the need that she can't back down, never feeling like a woman, feeling vulnerable, and never ever operating in what we call our term, her sacred feminine. Black men often crave our Black women to be girls just sometimes. But how in the hell can that happen when the priority of our Black women is to be the chief problem solver and the chief caretaker of all things Black? Strong, independent, and stressed. Through several pivotal points in American history, the Black family structure has been systemically targeted and undermined by creating situations where Black men were no longer of value in the eyes of our Black women, which gave way to too many of our women to conclude that they can go at this life alone. Therefore, leaving our women to choose to fend for themselves and to be the most vulnerable and exposed group in America. Period. Black folks in America but our Black women are the most at risk. Period. More at risk than an immigrant coming across the Rio Grande from Mexico by themselves with their kids on their back. They're more exposed and more at risk than them. Yeah. And they serve as they sacrifice themselves for our community, and they work themselves into the ground that they eventually start robbing themselves of their femininity, their softness, and their ability to cooperate with any productive, character-driven Black man. Most often finding productive Black men as a threat to their newfound independence built out of some need to be strong. As a means of survival, our women taught themselves to find pride in this responsibility. This is a self-limiting dynamic born from the ashes of oppression that has left us with generations of our Black women who pass on this idea of being strong as one of the major components of being a woman, when in fact, it's the absolute opposite.
Fact.
Strong, independent, and stressed. Now, from the positive end of things, it's also created a legion of very smart, very capable, very dynamic Black women who subconsciously convince themselves that their value is intrinsically tied to how much they can sacrifice and how much they can endure and how much they can overcome. Hence, to a degree, making our Black women self-sabotaging from a systemic standpoint. Our women have developed a behavior of absolute rejection of anything masculine. That's because most of our women are masculine themselves. And they do this despite claiming they want this character trait back in our Black men, and they want that in our Black men. And if our women tend to manage to bring this kind of man into her orbit, she brings a character-driven, productive man into her life, at some point, because of how he's built, she's going to behave in ways that will destroy that relationship, because she spent too many years of her life dealing with and having children with lesser men from a productive and character-driven standpoint. She has no idea how to engage and cooperate with a man like that. Productive, character-driven men. I'm not even talking about personality, if you like how he looks, or none of that. I'm just talking about from that perspective. Productive, character-driven Black men, believe it or not, have requirements. And a lot of times we get angry because our productive versions of our men have requirements. They have a physical requirement. They have a behavior requirement. They have a social requirement. They have a knowledge requirement. They have a discernment requirement. They also have a cooperative requirement. How can anybody know the value of something like this when you have never had the experience of having to carry or care for such a value? How can you submit to a productive, character-driven Black man with these requirements when the men in your past, their requirements, they only required you to be clean when you lay down with them? And some of them didn't even require that. Did this rule get a little hot for you? Strong, independent, and stressed. Not only do our Black women view themselves as strong, but very proudly independent. You heard what April Ryan said at the beginning of the clip. Strong, independent women don't get help.
Sure don't.
And believe it or not, it's offensive to a lot of our Black women when you challenge them on their independence. If you are out here as a traditional-minded man to a degree, and you're looking to couple with a long-term with a Black woman, you have to accept her independence as a part of the package. You also must support and advocate for her independence in order to keep her in your life.
I tell you what, the way how she broke that down, she made me see things a little different, just like that.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
So what does it mean to be an independent Black woman, huh? What does it mean to her overall outcomes?
Stress.
Ask any Black woman, what makes you so independent? And here's what you'll likely get back. I have a car. I have a job. I pay my own rent, pay my own mortgage. I take care of my kids with or without the help of the father or fathers. I do what I got to do to make things happen. I hold my own because I have to. Strong, independent, and stressed. This is the list of responses you typically receive. To understand this dichotomy, you have to understand sometimes you have to understand sometimes about you have to understand some things about most single black women. After 1965, most single black women have had their history generationally in their family. Their history is supporting themselves, having to go to work a job, sometimes two.
Wasn't 1965s when they end slavery?
No, 1965. No, that was the peak of the civil rights movement in 1965, and also in 1965 was the birth of the feminist movement as well. But we'll get to that down the line.
Okay.
And how white women co-opted black women for their own fight. But we'll get to that down the line.
Oui.
Sometimes our women have to hold down two jobs. 73% of our women are raising children and likely doing it alone. Our black women are also not only being holding down one or two jobs, raising all the kids, but they're going to school so they can get more money. They're taking care of all the bills in the house as the head of the house and helping out, and also including helping out with other family responsibilities, including their aging parents and grandparents and their siblings.
Yes.
If you understand the dynamic of a lot of black families, sometimes there's a lot of black families where we got a bunch of brothers and sisters and there's only one responsible one in the bunch. And often our woman, the responsible one, is the woman of the group, and she has to take on all of that. And we're not going to even talk about that sometimes in so many cases, our women choose to provide, now you guys are going to trip on this one, choose to provide financial aid in the form of an allowance, housing, transportation, food, emotional and physical support to the man she has selected to be in a relationship with. Some smooth talking jive, low neck brother comes in, see this woman under duress. And instead of trying to figure out how to be a better man of his version, come in and leeches on and drains what's left of her femininity.
Take total advantage if you're
I have gotten into many arguments with these low-level bum dudes. These let me calm down. Underproductive dudes, and I tell them to their face, you are stealing, excuse my language because my grandmother is watching, you are stealing coochie. In this dynamic, the woman is the man and the man is the woman. And that's if you want to talk about it from a traditional family role perspective. Excuse me, Dr. Thomas, because she's a pastor on here for using those terms. We try to be a little bit more, buttoned up over here. But sometimes it is what it is. Our black women have accepted and convinced themselves in order to get things done, they had to rely upon themselves only. And sometimes successful at it. But to what end? And as a result of this, our black women have developed the mindset or the attitude, why do I need a man around when I'm doing this? Companionship. Huh? Yeah. Leadership? What? Money? What? Support? I got all that. That's what our women are saying to themselves and saying to our brothers. Our black women have learned to work and earn money for themselves, raise children single-handedly, pay their bills, get their own education. This has led to the most unintended consequence. No matter how good it sounds for our women to be accomplished, it also leads to our women being completely and utterly stressed out. How can Black women be an FBI woman, as we talked about a couple streams ago, when she's in a constant state of stress? Friendly, beautiful, and inspirational. Let me tell you something. For the ladies that are married that are on our panel, they will tell you being a wife is like having another full-time job. Especially being a wife, that's a full-time job. Being a mother is a full-time job. And you're going to put that responsibility on a woman. And on top of that, she has to go out and slay dragons and cows and bring them home, skin it, cook it for the children, and then sometimes got a bum man in the place and do that for him too. This has come at a high cost to her. And that cost was the sacrifice of a healthy relationship with their best fit future spouse or boyfriend. Being strong, independent, and stressed has presented itself. It presents itself in our women as survival mode. So many Black women take on this mantra in order to feed their kids and to survive in this world. Strong, independent, and stressed. So when our Black women are confronted with or presented with a productive, character-driven Black man, too many of our women are unwilling to come into cooperation or be led by or submit to simply because they just don't have to.
Facts.
This is worn as a badge of honor and will not allow our women to give up what she perceived as her dominance and control. How can you ask somebody to give up control when they've had to do it, when they've been in control their entire adult life, a 40-year-old woman, a 35-year-old woman? All too often, strong, independent mindset in Black women and the masculine behavior in productive, character-driven Black men, it produces a power struggle. And as a man, we do not want to get in a power struggle with our woman. And nor should we. Just like you should not get in power struggle with your children. I tell any mother, if you get into don't get into no power struggle with no kid or your kid. But if you have to, you cannot lose. Because then the kid takes over the house. And when a man and a woman get into a power struggle, the woman normally wins that power struggle, but loses other valuable things that you can't put your finger on or hold.
So true.
For me, one of the biggest glaring issues with this mindset are Black women have become way too comfortable with taking on things that do not belong to them.
What choice do we have, though?
Many of our Black women are carrying, I heard you, Flo. Many of our Black women are carrying responsibilities that they shouldn't because it's not your responsibility, which is having an effect on our women's ability to come into cooperation with the fella that they should. I'm going to give you a brief example. Someone that I'm close to. We had a conversation a few weeks ago about her being tired of always having to deliver her child to her son's father. And I told her, that is not your responsibility. Her response is, well, how's my son going to see his father? And I said to her, that is not your responsibility. Yours is to make sure he has access, not to do his job. Our women, your default position is to take on other people's responsibility because you feel bad about the outcome if it doesn't happen. But guess what? Carrying other people's responsibilities and burdens are having an impact on you far bigger than you just feeling bad. We're not going to talk about all of the health issues that come with this. Now, over here, we constantly, every stream, talk about personal responsibility in the choices that we make and the decisions that our women make about who they bring into their lives. But taking on other people's responsibilities have led to some really profound health issues in our women. Physical health, mental health, high blood pressure, strokes, heart disease, fibroid tumors. We are the highest rated group, our women is, of fibroid tumors of any other group of women in the country. Stress, diet.
The whole 9 yards.
Unable to lose weight despite the vast majority of our women actually do eat decently and they can't lose weight. 82% of our women are overweight. I diet, I exercise, I eat right every day. 6 months, I ain't lost a pound, but you stressed out every day. Sorry for all the screaming.
You good. I love it.
The average Black woman is 5'4", 180 pounds. The average Black man is 5'10" and 170 pounds. So if the average Black woman is 180 pounds, so you know our women are way more bigger than 180 pounds. I'm talking about what that stress does to you of taking on other stuff that do not belong to you. Worrying about things that are not your responsibility. Strong, independent, stressed. This is where we're at with our Black women.
So what do we do from what's the solution, TJ?
Here we go. Glad you brought it up. I'm going to bring on our panel. Now, I just spent a good amount of time building our room. So let's see what kind of gumbo we can come up with.
Yes, sir.
I have a whole bunch of questions for the panel. And I was like, which one should I start with? The first one I'm going to start with for the panel. Ladies, why in the world do you feel the need to take on responsibilities that do not belong to you? Here we go.
Angela, your face expression.
We having technical difficulties. I was trying to make sure I was seeing if it was me or.
You know, we pay an arm and a leg for internet, and for some reason, it never works.
Yeah, it was. I'm sorry, guys.
It's
So
everybody.
The good part,
That's just the trick of the enemy.
Exactly.
Because it does all of us like that. And I pay good money for internet. And I see it all the time. And everybody that's on here, they see that.
And everything is connected to the internet. So how can you have people paying all this money for it to do the stuff it does? I don't understand it. Everything is just so
that was crazy. So, ladies, you heard. Well, at least it got through the good parts. Hopefully, not everybody. Everybody got brought back up. So, the question: why do Black women feel the need to take on everybody else's problems? Miss Fanny, go ahead.
When you asked that, the first thing I thought of was when I was around 12 years old. My father made it clear to me that it's, it's my job. You're your brother's keeper. So, in other words, he was talking about, I'm responsible for helping, my sibling, making sure that, he's okay, making sure, younger cousins are okay. So, in African American families, oftentimes the parents will look to the girls, especially if you're the firstborn, you're the babysitter, you're the assistant cook, you're the one who makes, helps mom, clean the house. So that's really where that
Like
starts.
we were from,
It's
yes.
really where that starts. And even when you get older and you start dating, men will often come to you with requests. Well, you're smart at this, you're good at this. So, why don't you help me with this? I have technical skills. So often men approach me about that. So it just, it starts in the family, and then, society as a whole,
Yes.
anywhere from your job, um, you know, uh, black men that you get involved with, they just look to you as the helper. You're gonna take care of this for me. You're gonna hook it up for me, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the way it is. And I wanted to say one other thing. You were asking about 1965. 1965. I think you were thinking about voting,
Yes.
Lady Flo. Yeah, that's when
Okay.
voting right. Yeah, that's when
Okay.
voting rights
I know
took place. Yeah, for
1960.
black people.
Okay.
Yeah, I
I
mean
know it
this is
was
a very
something. But that
yeah.
was well said. You are so right. It started right in the home because I grew up in a
Hmm.
West Indian culture, and my parents was real strict on me from the time I can function. They had me taking care of my younger siblings.
Hmm.
Sometimes can't even really go to school. You had so much on your plate starting from home, and then when you leave home, men are so a lot of them are needy, so they depend on you to do so much. So it's a lot of reason why we take on those roles. We just don't have we are bred for that, I guess. Women have certain roles and men have certain roles, but men been taken out of the homes for many reasons, not because we just choose bad men. Some men go off to the service, some men die, some men go to jail. It's a lot of reason why we are left to function the way we do, not just because we choose bad men. I don't think none of us wants to choose bad men. Most men are not bad. They just make poor decisions, and we have to just move on. But
Yeah, Miss Diamond, what do you think? Why do you think a lot of our ladies take on responsibilities that don't belong to them?
As you were talking in this opening, I was reflecting on so many things that you were saying, and I'm going to tell you the truth. I was getting very angry and upset. So that if they want to coin it as that angry African American woman, then coin it. But I wasn't angry at anyone particular. I was more so angry with myself because I was able to reflect on everything that you said. As far as I'll start from this point when you mentioned why do we take on so much? I don't think, and I can speak for me, I don't think that I took on, I think that I was chosen to do that. And I'll go way back. I'll go back as far as me being 17. And at that time, I remember coming down the steps in my home, and my mother and my sister was in another room talking, and I was on my way to school. And of course, 17, you're being very nosy. Your sister's in the house. She has her child with her, and she doesn't normally come over that early in the morning. But then I heard her crying, and I said, "Oh man, I really got to find out what's going on." And as I overheard what they were saying, I felt as though that I needed to do something. So I lied to my mother and told her that I was sick and I wanted to stay home. I wasn't sick. I just wanted to help, but I didn't want them to know that I overheard what they were saying, and I wanted to help with her daughter. So I figured if I can care for her daughter while she takes care of what she needed to take care of, then maybe that's me helping. But that one day of me helping turned into a lifetime.
Yeah.
My goal was to finish high school and to become an international judge, but that's not what happened. Life happened. Life happened to where I wound up raising her daughter, who's now 46, and I have raised 12 children,
Whoa.
3 of my biological children.
Hmm.
And I ask, and some people ask why, and I say why not. I was chosen to do that job because I could have stayed upstairs. I
Yeah.
could have been in the mirror getting ready for school, but
Yeah.
something brought me down those steps
Mhm.
at that time. That should I have left prior to her coming into the house? Maybe I wouldn't have seen her at all, and I would have went on. Where would my life have been? God
Yeah.
knows where what my map was going to be like. He
Mm.
knew what he wanted me to do. He
Yeah.
knew that she needed help.
Yeah.
Yes, I was a minor, I was a child, but he put things in me. I experienced a lot growing up in that house. I've learned by watching my siblings and my parents and my aunts and uncles. I am the youngest of 8. My mother is the last of 16. She is still with me. She is 97. I learned a lot. And
Yes.
had I went off to college, would I have learned all those things? Maybe not. The children that I am caring for now, where would they have been? Who would they
Mhm.
have been? And I'm not saying I'm the best person for them, but
Yeah.
I was the person that was chosen for them. So I
Yes.
don't necessarily say that I took on those things because there's times that I feel as though I have regrets of not going and doing the things that I wanted to do for me. But at the end of the day, when they're sleeping, I break it down for myself like I wouldn't want to be any other place.
Yep, I completely understand that perspective, but as a guy out here interacting with our ladies, our black women, and seeing how heavy you are, and I'm not talking about weight, but just your presence, and then I work in the hospital, so I'm around. Oh my God, I'm around nothing but women, and the healthcare field has become pretty dominated by black nurses. We walk through a hospital, most of your nursing staff now are black women, and just
Is it?
listen to these ladies talk, about what they're doing in their lives and what they got to do and what's happening, what they're carrying. And I'm just like, you carrying too much. Give that responsibility. And I understand it from an intellectual standpoint, and I could never understand it from a internal because I'm not a lady. You know what I mean? But what I do know is our black women are carrying too many other people's problems
Mm.
and too many other people's responsibility, and we take it on. I ran into a young lady who was about 20, you know, and she was just hard and just heavy, I guess is the word. And I talked to her for a little bit, and then because no young woman at between during that time frame should be that heavy. But talking to her, I understood that she was carrying burdens, but it wasn't hers. It was her mother's burden.
Yes.
Being in the house with a single mother, going through all these different rigmaroles with the different in and out means, and taking on the mother's anger. And I'm saying, I'm looking, I'm like, you got to give your mama back her problem. Don't make your problems, and our women will take on because and then, like you said, sometimes in the home we unintentionally do that to our ladies. We don't fathers sometimes can be the biggest, can perpetuate this the most because a lot of fathers have a hard time turning their daughters over to another man, and so we'll prepare them to do that, which is not good for her in the long term. Miss Lucas, why do you
Yes.
the question to you, why do you think our black women are feel the need to carry other people's burdens?
It's just like what Black Diamond said. Sometimes you're chosen and you just put in that position because my mother, she was sick when I was at the age of 9. She went to the hospital, and I had to help raise my brothers and sisters. And when she did leave this earth, I was 20 years old. I raised my siblings, and then my children came. So that position just came up upon me. So I didn't want to put the children in foster care. I wanted them to stay in the family, and then and I understand that sometimes women take on these men who act like they're so handicapped they can't do anything. You got to do everything for them. You got to get their clothes out and do, just do everything for them. Like you can't pay the bills, you can't do that, you can't do jack. But I thank God, hallelujah, that I think about the movie Claudine, you know, and that's a good example of how this woman had all these children, and this man came in her family, and she didn't want to accept him in her life because she has been independent all her life, did everything on her own.
But she was independent.
Huh?
What you say, Christy?
She wasn't independent. She was dependent on the system.
Yeah, she was
She
dependent
didn't
on the
want to lose
system.
her. She didn't want to lose her benefits.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't want to lose what the city, the state, the system was giving her for her children.
And this is why some women don't allow these men to become their husbands because they want to keep their welfare check and all the other benefits in there. And that was a good example of why some women are in the situation they're in now because they don't want to lose their benefits.
Yeah.
I think that some women are not willing to let go of control because they want to lose control.
Well, when you think about it, a person who needs control is out of control.
Exactly.
That person is out of control. And for us, for me personally, I was afraid. I was afraid of letting someone come in, and because I have a son with special needs, I was afraid of someone being over my son and not loving my son the way that I do. Because when I, excuse me, when I got involved in a situation that could have been a good situation, he didn't understand that this child has autism. He's different, and it became problematic. I couldn't do that. I couldn't have someone that would not um, that would not care for my son and was going to be harsh and brazen with my son
Right.
when he's not like normal children. And so from then on, it became a fearful situation for me. I having other stuff that I was dealing with too, but not wanting to bring a man in over our children and not knowing if this person is, um, would touch their children. I mean, there are a lot of variables, a lot of things to consider.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
And, as a mom, when you make a decision and that decision turns out not to be the greatest one, whereas having children by this man, you become very, very protective, um, almost to the point of fearful. And I know that I did.
Yes.
I surely did.
Okay.
Yes.
Miss Angela, same question to you. Why do you think our Black women are carrying responsibilities that do not belong to them?
Well, for me, and I can only speak for me, um, growing up, I was forced. I lost my mom 12 days after my 16th birthday. My sister tried to do her best, but then she had her own kids. My sister's 10 years older than me. She tried. And I just didn't want to be a burden. I felt like I was a burden to her, and I didn't want to be a burden to her. I didn't want to be a burden to my family. I didn't want to be a hindrance to anyone. So I took on responsibilities, and I just felt I had to fend for myself. Since 16, if Angela didn't get it, Angela didn't have it. And that's how it has always been. Um, I've never looked to anybody for anything, not a man, not anyone. And my sister tell you, I'll be the first one to tell you, if I can't get it, I won't have it. And that's just how it always have been. And that's just because of the position that I was put in. You know, I lost my mom. My mom was my life. That was everything that she was my provider. She was everything. You know, and when I thought people would step in, no one stepped in. So I had no choice. You know, we put in situations where we have to fend for ourselves because if
Yeah.
we don't, how do we survive? How
Hmm.
do we survive?
Hmm.
So my situation was either Angela do it or Angela don't.
I mean, that's what I said in this in in the monologue about having to take on all of these things and out of survival. I didn't talk a lot about fear, that a lot of decisions are made based out of fear. But anyone can tell you that. Well, not anyone, but any decision made out of fear typically turns out to be not the right decision. Miss Dr. Thomas, you can go ahead and unmute. Why do you believe our black women are carrying responsibilities that do not belong to them? I don't think she can hear me. Dr. Thomas?
Is she muted? Okay, there
Yes,
she
Yeah.
go.
sir. I'm not sure if I heard your question, but just to come in and comment on being a strong, independent, stressed sister. I heard a little bit of what Miss Smith said about being kind of pushed into being that independent person or being that independent, strong black female with the fact that her mom passed away. And many times situations like that occur and that will push us to that. But a lot of times there are situations where we put ourselves in with choosing the wrong mate. And when we choose the wrong mate, we get hurt. And after that, we pick up the pieces and we then say, hey, nobody else will be able to do these things to me. So now, I'm going to have my own. I'm going to have my own money, my own job, my own house, my own car. And nobody will be able to tell me, what to do, how to do, when to do. So we take on that role of being that strong, independent black female. And then when we get to that place to where we find someone who is willing to love us and who is really there for the long haul, we don't know how to step back. We don't know how to regress. We don't know how to move back from that because we've
Mhm.
always been in that position to where I'm gonna always have my own. Nobody's gonna be able to
Yes.
tell me anything or to be able to take anything from me. So
Yes, ma'am.
being that independent individuals, sometimes it is the fact that we've had to grow up faster. We've had to we've been put in situations to where we have fend for ourselves and we have made it for ourselves, and we don't want to step back because now it is a life or death situation for us at that point. But there are also times when we choose the wrong individuals in our lives and we force ourselves in taking on those roles. I like the clip that was played about the mother and being that independent black woman, but then thinking about the fact that there is a village, even though there may be an absent father, there's a village that is there that can help to raise that son, because there are many things that I can't teach my son. I can't teach my son how to be a man. I can't be the mother and the father. I can't do those things. So we have to understand that we have a role. We were built to be women, and yes, we are strong. We are able to carry a lot, but there are some things that God did not mean for us to carry.
Yeah.
Well said.
I don't think any woman grows up and decides that she wants to be a strong, independent woman. I know I didn't. I never wanted to be strong. I never wanted to be independent. All while growing up, I wanted to be a wife and a mother. Those are not the cards that I'm dealt. When people say, "Oh, you are so strong. You do this and you do that. You're so strong." Not because I want to be,
Mm.
Because you
not
got to be.
because I want to be, but because I'm playing the hand that's dealt me.
Yeah.
And some days I feel like I just want to kick back and be a girly girl. But because this is the hand that I was dealt, I have a son with challenges. He was about to age out of child support. I needed to be able to take care of him on my own without working three jobs. So I went to school to learn how to drive trucks. It's not because I wanted to, it's necessity is the mother of invention. And we end up in a situation where we sometimes love the wrong men and they leave a foul taste in our mouths, or we're left with babies. And truthfully and honestly, you can look at a woman who is married versus a woman who is single, and I can tell the difference because that stress of taking care of the household, paying the bills, making sure the kids have everything they need. Got to go to Walmart. Got to go to Sam's. Got to go to uh, uh, Target, and got to go to Schnucks, and then go home and cook. Make sure clothes are ready. Make sure homework is done, and then sit down and read. Once everything is done, make sure the kids are bathed. Then I get time for me at 10:30 because the whole day has gone by, and that little bit of time, 10:30 to 10:45 till we go to sleep, that's for us.
And it's a vicious cycle. It's just
So here's
That's
the
not.
question. I mean, so here's the question. And I'm thinking about one of my coworkers. She's a contracted respiratory. I'm a respiratory therapist, guys. For those we don't know, um, there's a contracted lady. She came up. She's 31 years old. She came up from Memphis, and uh, just as cute as she want to be. Natural hair, brown, chocolate color. Just so she just ended up having a couple kids. They're stair steppers, one or two, by a guy, and so she's always running back. She gets a day and a half off. Memphis is about 5 hours from here. She runs down. Her kids are with their mom, and I asked her, I said, "Where is your kid's father?" And she said to me, "Well, he has other kids to think about." And I asked her, like I ask anybody else, and I know it's kind of cold blooded. And I said, "How is that your problem?
It's not.
If you decided to have, I mean, he talked about, and she gave him some babies because he convinced her that he was going to marry her. And I said, then you should have gave them the babies after you got married to the man, not before. But we're gonna have a whole stream on that too. But she tended. I told her, I said, it is not your problem to worry about. And I know this is selfish, but it's not your problem to worry about what he has to do with them other kids he got. I say you stressing out because your mama taking care of your baby. You got babies, and you put your babies on your mama. You 5.5 hours away from home, trying to earn money to support them babies. You got a guy who claimed he was going to marry you, but then you can't lean on him for you to come up here to do this. How's that your problem? And at what point I think we have a good understanding of a lot of the issues that our women have. But at what point are we going to, en masse, start talking to our ladies about selection process? It doesn't mean that it's going to be nothing's 100%, but you can minimize the effects. A man getting married is just as much as a risk. A man of means, huh?
I don't know why women think getting married is the thing. Married men do the most. They
But
cheat just as much. They can be just as dead meat. They
well, we're talking about yes, those things happen
marriage
can
don't
happen.
mean that they're gonna do right
But
by you and stuff.
we're talking about minimizing poor outcomes. And the fact of the matter is, Flo, regardless of where the stance is on marriage, we are the least married group. We have the biggest poorest outcomes. So there's something to be said that yeah, there are always going to be factors of people that are married. There are situations where the husband's not doing right or the wife's not doing right or they're both doing right and their children don't turn out right. But the fact of the matter is to give yourself the greatest opportunity for success is in the marriage. And I'm not saying pro marriage or pro, but my thinking is this: what we are doing for the last 50 years as a culture, I'm confident enough to say
Not working.
what we are doing, how we select, how we couple, having children before we get married, choosing our women, choosing men that are projects, a buildable project versus the guy that you think is a little bit corny. Those are having profound repercussions on us as a culture. There's no perfect solution, but there's always an opportunity to minimize the effects. And I'm telling you, as a group, we are the most studied group in this country from an anthropological standpoint. And they study us in terms of what not to do.
Because
Men are
we're
men
resilient.
are
It is Flo.
men are
Our,
choice
our
people.
culture is so resilient. So many people are trying to understand us in ways that how do we survive what we've survived? Because other cultures cannot survive what we've survived. They cannot deal with what we have dealt with. When we was talking about that crash when 2000 hit, how many people like ourselves were prepared, and how many people were not prepared, just about ready to kill themselves because they was talking about the crash.
Ready to.
It's right.
Did.
So
Why
you
you
know
think?
that's the reason why they study us because you know, and I'm not trying to go there as far as race or anything like that, but we're amazing and we put up with so much, and that's just going far as back as slavery that we've survived so much, and they're just trying to figure out what makes us tick, what
Yes.
keeps us
But
How
strong,
can
what
we
keeps us
break them?
going.
How can we keep them back? How can we keep them down? And we still rise above
But,
it
under,
all
but understand, we're here.
without being married.
But here's to what, and I always go to what end. Miss Fanny, go ahead.
So what I was going to say is, I think what you meant was when you say minimize a bad outcome, like for that cute young lady that you were talking about. I think what you were trying to say is, why is it that we're selecting a guy that already has a family or families, and we're still selecting him, because he says sweet things like "I'll marry you" and things like that. I think that's where because I often think that, and in my dating life, I've been proposed to by men who had, they already had, two, three, maybe four baby mamas, but wanted to marry me and have even more children. So, um, yeah, I think maybe that's something that we need to look at, because if you meet a guy, there's only so many hours and so much money that you have. Everybody, there's limits. And so if he already has 5 kids out there, is that somebody
He
that you
got
want to
nothing
have a
for you.
family with? Hmm?
True, you're
Yeah.
right. Because if he got all that going on, he don't got nothing for you.
But
But
here's the thing.
men are very deceitful and and
Oh,
and,
no,
and
Flo.
they're not.
slick.
No, they're not.
To
Some,
me,
I
No,
think
they're not.
some of them.
a lot
You,
of
So I
the
them
think
come
men
and
that
they're
you have
never honest.
encountered,
They
the men
always
that you have encountered may have been,
that
but
men
for the
most
most
men to
part,
me are
for the
to
most
me.
part, Yeah,
I don't.
and I can
I've been
see
a
it now.
loner for mostly my life, so I really don't fall victim. But I have a lot of friends, and I sit around a lot of friends, and they men. They come with these demeanor, and they controlling, and they have these women fearing them, to do what they want to do with them, and a lot of women be scared of a lot of these men. Not
I'm
all men
sorry,
come
you're
like
around those
TJ.
kinds of people
No,
What'd you say,
because
Christy?
I have four
it's
brothers.
just all kind of people, old,
Hold on,
young, it doesn't matter.
hold
I
on
know
a
a lot
second.
of older women that go through things that
Hold on
I
a
just
second.
never think they
Hold on a
will.
second, Flo. Christy, what was you saying?
I have four brothers, and of my four brothers, three of them is married. One of them married his first wife twice. One of them has been married for, my youngest brother has been married for 30 some years. My middle brother has been married for 30 something years. These are the types of men that I see. And to to get married, to be married means not to be alone, not to be longing. To together you're a team. Together each achieves
Yeah.
more. So when you have somebody you can ebb and flow off of and vibe off of, and you're being honest, yeah, some, you're gonna find those that cheat. But if the woman ain't willing to cheat with them, how you gonna cheat? We can't put it all on the men.
True
We
that, but I
cannot put
can't.
it all on the men. And when you look and say, "Oh, all men do this and all men cheat," then sometimes we have to look at ourselves and say,
Women do it
"What kind
too.
of people are we putting? Are we bringing into our world? Are we looking at? Are we seeing? What kind of men are we around?" So
That's why.
you can't put that on them. Some of it is you.
Hold on, Miss
Yeah,
Flo.
but I can't speak about, what other women allow. I just know what I've seen at my time coming up, and just watching things, and watching my parents, and just watching at an overall, and how men are just so manipulative about how they handle women.
And that's
And
what I
this is the
said.
reason why they're not around, because they want to come around and handle women a certain way and expect for you to allow it. And if you allow it, they go. That's what it will be. All men don't come like TJ. All men don't come like whoever. You probably lucked up and be around decent men, but not all women are fortunate to be around that type of them. Most of them just come with one baggage or the other. That's
So that
that's
means we as women have to step our game up. We have to look at ourselves and see what is wrong with me. What can I do better? Why am I in this situation, or do I find myself in this situation repeatedly? To where no sooner I get in a situation with a brother,
I get right
then
out.
I'm seeing something and get right out.
I get
And
right out. I pay attention to all those telltale signs, and that's another reason why I just decide to just be single. There's nothing
so
wrong
so
with being
so
single to
because
me.
you're seeing it and seeing those telltale signs right off the bat, doesn't mean that all men are bad. It
No,
means
no, no. I came
maybe
across some good guys.
maybe your selection process or your process of elimination needs to change up a little bit.
Yeah. Next week we're going to talk about standards, which we're going to get into this next week. Miss Angela,
TK, can I
I've been
speak to
watching.
what Miss Christie just said?
Go
Um,
ahead. Go ahead.
Based on what she just said, that really is something that I think we as women need to really take an inventory of, is what we are attracted to. Because many times you'll find yourself attracted to a certain type of man. And even when you look at individuals who have been in domestic violence type relationships, they attract those type of men. So we have to look at ourselves, we have to take an inventory and we have to ask ourselves, what is it that really attracts us to these individuals? When we keep attracting the same types of individuals, those that don't stick and stay, those that are just some dewdrop inners and then they're gone. We have to look at us. We have to check ourselves, because sometimes we have a flaw within ourselves, and it may be some holes in our self-esteem and even our self-worth, and how we value ourselves and how we look at ourselves when choosing our mates.
I think some men can just kind of like size you up, because that's just what they do. They size you up. If they feel like you the type of woman that they can say come in and leech on, or they feel like you got a heart of gold and they could take advantage. It'd be many reasons. They all come differently. None of them comes the same, so it's not just a particular kind of man. It's just different kinds of men come in different kind of way. And it just depends on a suit and tie could come in and do the same. It doesn't matter. People be having their own intentions, and it's just hard to pinpoint what they're up to until they make that one mistake that let you know, okay, this is what this individual is on. It's not a matter of different, same type of people, different men come in different ways. It's just so much they come.
Right, Flo, real quick, I want to get to Miss Fanny, then I want to jump over to Angela. Go ahead.
Okay. What I was gonna say is I think and Ms. Flo, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying, because this has been my experience, is I have always been told, that I'm a good quality person, and I've had many men tell me, "Oh, you're a good woman, and you look nice, and you're a nice person," and this type of thing. But even though you have those good qualities, it's amazing to me that you can attract the biggest lowlife, the one that wants to move in with you and pay absolutely no bills,
They just see a
and
free ride.
I have no problem saying no. I'm very good at
Yes,
that.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm very good at that, and my girlfriends are always amazed at that. But and I'm like, Christy, I was raised around a lot of good men. I had a father in the home that raised me. I was raised by a good quality man. I have a brother, and my cousins, and they, they love their wives, and they take care of their families and everything. And that's all I ever wanted for myself. But I've always been amazed at, why am I attracting somebody that, I didn't want to attract. I wasn't even trying to attract you. I was trying
Okay,
to.
Miss Fanny, can I say something real quick?
And I got 10 brothers, so I'm very familiar with how they come. 10 of them, believe you me, 10 different personalities.
Hold on, Flo. Hold on a second. I always, when women talk about what I attract, fair. It doesn't matter what you attract. It's what you allow in.
What you accept.
Yep.
That's it. That's it right there.
It don't even matter. What you allow in influences a lot. Now, really quickly before I get to Miss Angela, because I really want to get to Miss Angela, because I've had this conversation multiple times, and one of the things in Flo, your perspective, believe it or not, is more pervasive amongst our Black women than I think we care to really understand. That your view of men that way. But here's what I always tell people, tell our ladies, especially those of you who are raising boys. You have this perspective on Black men as being sneaky, conniving, underhanded. You have this very harsh view of us. I always ask the mothers that have boys, do you not think your boys one day are going to be men? And do you not think that they are going to actually understand what you're saying? Now, I love my grandmother to death. I was raised by my grandmother. She took me in when I was about 5 or 6. My grandmother did an excellent, she did the best she can with what she had. My grandmother went so far as to adopt me. People get a little bit shocked when I tell them that. My grandmother legally adopted me. She didn't just, take me in and raise me from my mother. My grandmother went the extra step because of what I was going through as a kid, that she wanted to make sure that nobody could ever come back in and remove me. So she legally adopted me. So by law, my grandmother is actually my mother by law. But one of the pitfalls I think my grandmother found that sometimes doesn't quite, and she's on right now listening, so I'm trying to be very careful about what I say. But one of the things that I used to kind of gristle at a little bit and still do to this day is the fact that her perspective on men being rotten. She'll say, men are rotten, men are low down. And I'm thinking to myself, is that how you see me? I'm not saying there are not rotten, low down men out there, but when our women have this generalized perspective about men, and it's based on, let me tell you something. Your view of something doesn't necessarily extrapolate across the spectrum, because I know we always push back on numbers and stuff like that. Let me tell you something, and receive this from, I think, a fairly decent brother for most of the time. There are more of TJs in this world than you know. I always tell our women all the time, like especially our Black women, there are a lot of TJs on my job. The guy, the lead night physician in the hospital that I work at, the lead night physician, he's in the emergency room. He's a 37-year-old Black man. There are more of us on the job than you care to, and our women won't look at the Black man sitting across from you at work because you don't want to mess up your money. Damn your money. For us to be together, somebody's got to surrender or sacrifice something for the greater good. This particular doctor, he's really into this one nurse that works in the neural part of the building, different part of the building. She won't give him the time of day because they work in the same facility, which I think is absolutely insane. I watch white folk on a regular basis at work meet, marry, and the wife go work someplace else.
Some
sacrifice.
Their own standard, though. TJ,
it's not their own standard. But I'm going to go back to the question. Then, if what we are doing as a group is working so well, why do we have the issues that we have?
So because he's into her, she has to be into him. That's another thing. They think because they like you, it doesn't mean that you're attracted to that person.
It's not about the fact that she has to be into him. It's the mentality that, the job over everything else. That's not how we are designed, not even from a biological standpoint. And I'm not saying that nurse has to accept that Black man, but let me tell you something. That is a 37-year-old doctor who's running an ICU and the lead doctor at night.
She's still not attracted. She's still don't.
It's not the fact that
it's
she's not
not
attracted.
about being attracted. It's about making choices for her future, a good, solid choice, because she hasn't even given it an opportunity. There are so many women who are so bitter and keep their eyes covered and closed because they might not be attracted to that man. But do you really sit down and look at him? Have you really given him an opportunity? Have you really had a conversation?
And let me tell you about the whole thing of attraction. The men are not supposed to be the pretty people.
No, attracted to somebody is not all about beauty. It's
Go ahead, Miss Angela.
His
Go ahead,
aura.
Miss Angela. I'm
he
sorry.
probably didn't even like his aura. It's a lot of things that can cause a woman to just don't want to be bothered.
We always come up with one excuse after another.
I'm just being real, though.
Why we can't couple.
Real. I see things the way I see things. I can't see things the way you see things because this is how I see it. It could be any reason why she don't want to give him a chance. You don't know what she got going
Fanny,
on.
Hold on, I really want to get to Miss Angela. Go ahead, Miss Angela.
No problem.
Go ahead.
Miss Angela?
Yes.
Go ahead. I've been trying to come back to you, but I've been getting sidetracked, so I apologize.
You wanted me to answer a question. What did you want me to chime in on?
I want you to chime in. I'm looking at your facial expressions, Miss Angela, and they're telling a story. And I would like, what are your thoughts?
So I'm just listening because I'm just a man's type of person right now. I am my brother's keeper, and I just believe in I just believe in my men. You know, and I've been through domestic violence. I've been through all types of stuff, but I just truly believe in my brothers. And I believe that, you know, with the right backbone, with the right support, that these men could be the men that they're supposed to be. You know, some of us that think we have arrived and think that we are at a point, we still have issues. Sometimes we weren't always there. We had to get there. And sometimes we have to help lift these men up so that these men could get to a point to where they need to be. That's this whole thing that I've been doing here for the last couple of months. I am my brother's keeper because I want my men to know that society may have failed you, but there's still some women out here that believe in you and support you and want to see the king that's on the inside of you. That's my stand on. I don't believe that all men are bad. And yeah, I've been through a lot of stuff. Yeah, I made a lot of wrong choices. And I had to reevaluate some things about Angela.
Own it.
I had
own it.
I had to own some stuff.
I'm a little harsh.
And I had to say I'm not gonna accept this and I'm gonna accept. See, we accept a lot too.
Yes.
And then we have to say what we're not going to accept, and we have to stand by that.
I might be a little harsh, but I got 10 brothers. And I love my brothers, and I grew up with my daddy. So I'm 4, and I got 2 boys. But yet still, if I don't point out the issues is the reason why women can react the way they act and take on the way they take on, I'm defeating the purpose of me even saying anything. This is what I see. This is what I see in many things. All of us up here been hurt one way or the other by a man. So, you know, if we don't address that type of ness that they come with, you know, yes, I got all these brothers. You think I don't love men? You think I think all men are bad? No, I just like to point out the things are the reason why we react the way. Not that they are bad, but these is what we encounter with in crossing. So I have to point it out. You know, I'm not gonna sit up on here and
I'm acknowledging the fact that your point of view is held by a lot of Black women. It's held that way.
It is what it is. I'm so sorry.
But my question is, you hold that viewpoint to what end does it serve us? Because just because this is, your experience is what your experience is, but that doesn't mean that that's what's out here in totality. You know what I mean? And we get upset when we compare ourselves to other races, other groups. They don't have our issues. So here's the question: either they got it wrong or we got it wrong. How many times have you seen attractive white women with the most homely looking dude, but because he's a provider? His providership, his character, all of this, they choose based on the long-term goal. We get so our women.
But it's the person. It's a personal choice. It's a personal choice. Some people want to choose for providers. Some people want. It's what you want. Some people think about how they wake up in the morning. If they want somebody that they want eye candy, it's your personal choice. Me personally, I want a provider, but I want a provider that looks like something too. And then I got to go. No, I don't want to. No.
No, there's no
That's
two people in this
mean,
world
it's what
alike.
it
We
is.
all are different, and we're gonna go about it different. Nobody have the right to tell you you are wrong for how you feel, because this is how you feel, and this is what you want
how you
at the
feel.
ending
I
of
might not
the
take
day.
I might not have to have a 10 all the time, but I want close to that 10.
I don't want.
If he's 5.5 and
you
look like
provided,
something,
I'm
hey,
supposed to just be unhappy just because you
But we
provided.
keep making we keep making our decisions based on how we feel instead of a practical choice.
We are humans. That's what we do.
So let me tell you something. Prior to 1965,
Feelings.
doing Jim Crow, doing segregation, we were together because we had to.
That's right.
Look at your family album, your historical family album.
Times they
You will see,
change.
no,
We don't
you
have
will
to
see.
like that no
I'm
more.
going to make a very general statement, but you will see beautiful great grandmama and not so beautiful granddaddy.
Times they change.
Back then, we picked our men. We picked each other because of our need for survival. And let me tell you something. What makes you everything? Anybody who's lived long enough to know, everything comes back around.
Sure does.
It comes back around, and the think that we're not heading into a season where we need each other for survival. The things that we pick on its face are very superficial.
Superficial.
Very superficial. And our women are now picking men like men pick women. And you wonder why we got a problem.
Women are programmed to be picking certain types of men.
Yes, ma'am.
And men are programmed to treat women a certain type of way. So it comes on fault on both sides.
Yes.
You know, I work.
Yes.
I work with a lot of teenagers, a lot of young women, and when we was talking about how some of them, I think somebody mentioned something about child support or something they had mentioned about getting money for them or whatever the case may be. And I deal with a lot of them who don't want to go. They want their children just say in daycare, but you have to put the man on child support. They'd rather forego the child support and not put their child in daycare because they're afraid of what he's going to say, or he's going to get mad at me, or he's going to be upset, or he already has 2 kids and they're going to be taking more money from him, but you're not getting that money anyway. You have to understand that you're there to provide for your child, and he should too, whether he's providing for child A with her, child B with her, or child Z with him. They still have to provide. But as I said before, a man that's going to find a woman who has children or will continue to have children, he's going to stay. Because if things don't work out this month with this one, I'm going to go next month with that one and give her whatever kind of story I want to give her because she's going to buy into it. There's a lot of things that's going on, and it's generational with the way that it's happening, because you got some mothers or grandmothers who are teaching their daughters or granddaughters, and I've seen it, go after a certain type of man because you're going to get this, that, and the other. And it doesn't mean that you're going after a strong man or a man that's willing to put up with your mess or to be able to provide for you. They're looking at those basketball player kind of men. And then they're looking at their men who are looking for certain types of women. So we get it on both sides. You know, they're in a relationship. Who's to say that there's an assignment in the relationship? You said it earlier, Mr. TJ, that a woman who's working at home, taking care of the children, that's a job. So let's just think about it this way. If a man is at home taking care of the children, those same children, that's his job, and the woman is out there working the 9 to 5. Why is there something wrong with that? It should not be, but they're saying because of the way society looks at things, that a man is supposed to be the one. Who says that the man has to be the one to do it? Just like when a child is born, you can buy a gift for a child. A woman has a baby, and you give that woman a gift for the baby. Oh, she had a little girl. You're automatically going to think, give her something pink. Why not give her something blue? You want to see a woman have a little boy, you're going to automatically want to give him a truck. Give him a doll. Why not? Because society is saying that he got to have a truck. Society is doing things in a way because of an old school way, the way that they said it should be. But that's not the way that it has to be.
Yeah, Miss Diamond, I'm gonna hold on, Christy. Miss Diamond, I've stated on a couple of streams that we as Black people, we need a new deal. We need a new deal with each other. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, are we going to go back to? I said this, I think, on the last stream. We're not going to go back to where our women, all of our women are at home. Our men are out in the field working. We're not going to go back there. But we do need a new deal with one another. And the current outcomes that are out here for us as a collective, they're not good. And for me as a man watching this stuff have unfolded over the course of my life and seeing the product of it right now, I'm personally a little fed up with what I'm seeing. I want our women to choose better. We can't do nothing about past choices. I would like to see some movement in how we think, how our women think about our man and what constitutes a very good, productive man and what she offers him. I would like to see our guys, our men, our productive men. If you do a lot of searching on YouTube, there's a lot of channels and networks out there right now that are encouraging like the productive, that the 53% of Black men that are single, childless, and make enough money to be in the middle class. There's a lot of channels out there that are encouraging these men to walk away from Black women.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you something. Mm-hmm. I understand why they're
That's
encouraging.
systematic too.
Hold on, Flo. I understand as a guy. I understand why they're encouraging these brothers to do that, because they're saying they're encouraging these brothers to do that because they're saying your Black women don't value how hard you're working. They don't value what it takes for you to become productive. They're more concerned about, Pookie and Ray Way making them tingle than they are of you and the long-term future. But let me tell you something. That mindset also will produce the annihilation of us.
The kerfuffle that is.
It's gonna do that, and I agree with the sentiment. A lot of times, I tell guys, don't go where you're not wanted. But I want to tell our guys, when we start talking about his image, our women are hard. You got to understand why they're hard. Yes, a lot of our women have not chosen appropriately, but damn it, if we're serious about rescuing our culture, our Black men are going to have to show our women a little bit more grace and mercy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And that's what we need.
Well said.
But then we have a responsibility. That brokenness inside of us that says, when I see the first sign of anything, I cut bait and run. But when a robber is looking at a house and they want to rob the house, they're going to look for the weakness. So they're going to see that weakness. When a woman has been hurt, has been molested, has been abused, she has telltale signs.
Yes, they take
advantage. And so that those men are going to come at you. They're going to keep coming at you, and you keep flinging them off. But to really look inside oneself or get a professional to help you look inside yourself and find the broken pieces and put them back together, that's the only thing that's going to stop those men that are victimizers from coming at you. Get some therapy.
And you're going to need your productive. Well, we'll get to when we get to his image, that I think there's a responsibility to behold about our Black men dealing with these, I'll call them thieves and robbers of our Black women's femininity. Miss Fanny, we're on. I'm going to give you the last word. We're going to wrap it. Then I'll wrap it up, and then and then I'm going to have you guys hang back. Go ahead, Miss Fanny.
I just want to say one thing really quick. I want to. I've just noticed a lot of books that are being sold now, that are being promoted now heavily towards single Black women, where they're also encouraging single Black women to walk away from Black men. And I agree with you, Tavares, that I'm concerned about future generations. Are African Americans, because we're a race upon ourselves, are we going to exist?
We're not gonna. I'm gonna say that. No,
Well, if you
this is
go,
the thing.
We are going to continue to exist.
You best believe
Fanny,
it.
I wish
from
you would.
1968. There was something that was stated in 1968 when President Lyndon Johnson did the study. He said we will never, ever
Never.
be
Never.
equal. He said we will never be equal. He said we are headed towards separate and unequal society, and we are here in 2022. And what does it look like?
Yep.
I'm saying we act like this has been thousands of years that we've been removed from this, and it's not.
No, sorry.
I'm talking about 47, 50 years. I'm talking about my sister 57. She's going to be 57. She was born in 65, 60,
you're gonna like
68.
it when we talk about when we talk about the Mohan report, which is going to be a doozy. You're gonna like that because a lot happened there. So, in conclusion, the reason why I did this topic, particularly right now, is Miss Fanny, I wish you were around earlier in some of our earlier streams. I actually talked about who has a vested interest in keeping us apart.
That's the question.
There's a whole economic structure built on the fact that Black men and Black women are not together. There's a whole who's benefiting. Follow the money. If Miss Fanny, if I got a house and you got a house, we both got $200,000 houses. Why do somebody else just got rich off of us being separate?
Yep.
And Black women spend more money per capita than any other demographic on this planet.
And you make the least amount of money, which is even crazier.
Yep.
All right. I plan to only go an hour and 30 minutes. I went 2 minutes over that. So, guys, thank you for this. I had a whole bunch of other questions. We didn't really chance to get to it. But in conclusion, I do have a problem with our women carrying more than they should. I want to encourage them even if you got to take a microscope to your life, find things that don't belong to you that you're carrying and get rid of them. Lay them responsibilities at somebody else's feet. You got children and the father don't have transportation, that's his problem. I know you're going to feel bad because your kids aren't going to be able to see the father, but if that joker cares enough, he'll get a bus pass, some roller skates, or whatever he need to do to come see about his children. It's not your job after you done worked 10 hours in a day, then go pack up the kids and drive around trying to find him so you can spend 5 minutes with Devontae or something like that. That's not your responsibility. I know the end result is a sad kid, but that father is going to have to answer to that child one day.
Sure will.
And I'm telling you this from experience. They're gonna have to answer to that father one day. Stop carrying things. Stop advocating for people on your job that don't benefit you. That's another thing, because I got somebody in my life advocating for somebody else's money, and your own money is below minimum wage. Stop advocating. Stop carrying other people's responsibilities around. Okay, ladies, I thank you very much again. I want you guys to hold back, and we'll chop it up after this. Hold on.
You know we getting grown up in here, right? 25 and up. Let me see your ID, baby. Yeah. Nobody move till we say so. It's that 3D radio with TJ Digger and Lady Flow. Real talk on 3D radio. Dress for success, so it's never fail. Grow delivery, so call it Gmail. Stay logged on till it's time to bail. Adults only, so now it's set sail. Don't act like you ain't heard what I said. Go on, little mama, put the kids to bed. Live on the net, you know it don't stop. Time to get loose like you do the wild. Need some advice, you know who we be. Relationship University. So like Marvin on the Mercy Me's. And on the intro, you know it's Big D's. We came here to blow your mind. Caught up like the folks that's on the crime time. Clap your hands cause it feels so amazing. This another TJM creation. Nobody move till we say so. It's that 3D radio with TJ Digger and Lady Flow. Real talk on 3D radio. Nobody move till we say so. It's that 3D radio with TJ Digger and Lady Flow. Real talk on 3D radio.